Hi, my name is Danielle and I'll be guiding you today through some gentle somatic flows. And gentle somatic yoga is a series of slow, mindful movements that enhance and amplify body awareness. When we move like this, it allows ourselves to self-correct and release any stress-based patterns from our body. Let's begin today by centering and just becoming more aware of our body as we get started. We'll come to any comfortable seated position. A few things to keep in mind if you have a few towels or blankets with you. If your knees are achy, if there's a lot of space between the knees and the floor, you might just bring one blanket to rest under each thigh. That takes a lot of strain out of the knees. Another option would be to sit on the edge of one blanket. That elevates the hips, releasing the hip flexors, sometimes makes sitting more comfortable. Once you come to that place that feels just right for you today, we'll relax the hands on the thighs, maybe fold them in the lap, and just start by coming into our body. Just notice the places in the body that feel a little tense. Maybe it's the jaw. See if you can unclench the jaw. We have a tall spine, bring the head back in space, but relax all of those muscles around the eyes. So that's the eyelids, eyebrows, forehead. Let all of this relax. From here, let's shift our awareness down onto the breath. There's no need to control it. We'll just find slow, easeful inhales through the nostrils and exhales out the nostrils as well. Breathing in as much as we can all the way to the very top. And on those long, slow exhales, emptying completely. We'll take several more rounds of breath just like this. As you breathe today, I'm just going to read you a poem. It's from this book called Yoga Poems, written by Lisa Lowitz. Sukhasana, cross-legged pose. Like an archaeologist, I believe that somewhere in this dark old cave, I'll find a worthy treasure, and I do. Lifting my sternum, stretching out sacrum, lumbar, psoas, iliacus, dusting off these mystical shards of me, names like an ancient language, hieroglyphic prayer I'm learning by heart. Pulling them out, I find another path to a hidden chamber, and another, and another. When the rock chips and clears, all these riches are visible, and I'm just sitting, digging deeper, blowing off the dust. 2 more full rounds of breath. That's what we'll do today with our gentle somatic yoga. Remember who we are. Remember the natural state of our body and our mind. For our first flow today, we'll start just in this position, but let's bring palms together in front of the heart. We'll start with a movement called Namaste Flow. So this flow stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that helps us to relax. It increases prana, or energy, enhances interoception, or that ability to look within, and reduces anxiety. Let's move through it slowly, and then we'll move at our own pace. We'll start right here with an inhale. On the exhale, we'll make this triangle with index fingers and thumbs. Push the palms away, and I'm sinking backwards. Shoulder blades are moving away from each other, and my chin drops down to the chest. Now on the next inhale, we'll raise the arms up as I sit tall. My gaze follows the palms. And then exhale, letting the palms fall down through my aura or energy shield. And then the inhale brings the palms back together in front of the heart. So we'll move through this flow several times. You might move exactly at my pace, but chances are you breathe at a different pace, you might move differently than me, and that's wonderful. So let's go. Start with an inhale. Exhale, pushing the palms away, shoulder blades widen. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, releasing those arms down, a grounding energy. And inhale, palms together in front of the heart. Keep going. Exhale, palms away. Inhale, lengthening upwards. Let those eyes follow the palms. Exhale, palms down. And inhale, palms together in front of the heart. Keep moving at your own pace. So as we move with intention today, what we're trying to do is minimize or erase sensory motor amnesia. This is the root cause of pain. It occurs when we ignore our body's response to stress. Tensing becomes habitual and the muscles do not disengage. This leads to chronically tight muscles. Perhaps you notice this as very tight shoulders or lower back pain that just won't go away no matter what you do. It's because different parts of the brain have stopped talking to each other. We forget how our body should naturally be. Today we will work to minimize that. Let's find one more round of Namaste Flow. Feel each movement fully. Notice any discomfort, tingling, maybe even skipping in the movements. When you finish that round and take your time, we'll release our hands to the thighs, close the eyes. We find this moment of stillness between our movements. How does the body feel now compared to when we first started? Remember when we centered at the beginning, what were the places you felt tight? Are they still tight? Have they changed? Perhaps you notice your heart beating, maybe a little warmth or tingling throughout the body as we've started moving today. A few clearing breaths here. Inhale through the nose, fill all the way up to the top. Open the mouth, let that go. And one more just like that. Inhale. Go all the way up to the tippy top. Open mouth, let it go. For our next movement today, we'll move through a gentle somatic flow called heart opening. This flow prepares the brain and the nervous system for additional movement. It also enhances the awareness of the heart center and improves mobility of the spine. Let's start with a seated position that's comfortable for you. Feel free to prop the knees up with blankets if that's what you need. We'll relax hands on thighs, close the eyes, a little awareness of this tall spine, pull head back in space, and we'll do our pre-check. So checking in with the body. In particular, notice the back, the abdomen, the shoulders, even the neck. How do they feel? Are they stiff? Does one shoulder feel a little tighter than the other? And this is all information, and none of it is good or bad. It simply is. It's evidence, like the archaeologist from our poem, that we're uncovering about our body. Next, inhale, let's gently open those eyes and we'll begin. Now we're going to move first towards the right and I'll bend my right elbow out to the side as I bring the torso over to the right. So what I'm doing here is compressing the left side body while I'm expanding the right side. We'll hold that just for a moment and then come back to center. And we'll shift to the other side. So this left elbow comes out. I bring my torso to the left. This time I'm compressing the right side body while the left side is opening. And then let's come back. And now this is the time where I say, move at your own pace, and we'll go back and forth and just a few more times. So over to the right, bend that elbow, keep that left hip rooted down. Inhaling up. Now the movements we do in gentle somatic yoga, these are not stretches, rather we call them pendiculation. So a pendiculation is a mindful movement that re-educates the neuromuscular system. And there are 3 steps. We engage, disengage, and pause. So there's so much information in the pause. A teacher once told me whole worlds exist in the pause. So this pause is where interoception occurs, where we take stock of the movement and make sure we're not feeling any pain. One more time to each side here. Okay, now pause. We're going to shift the movement. It will seem very similar to a cat-cow. So on an inhale, we'll bring the heart forward. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together on the back. Lift the chin. And on the exhale, we'll move the opposite way, sinking back, chin to chest, widen the shoulder blades. Notice how you feel. Notice where you feel it. And then upright. We'll do this 2 more times in each direction. Move at your own pace. We engage, disengage, pause. Engage, disengage, pause. One more time. Uncovering this evidence. Notice how each movement feels. Now let's bring all of these movements together and work in a clockwise position. So first, we'll go over to the left, and then forward, over to the right, and sinking back. 2 more times in this direction. Notice what you feel. If anything feels like pain, you pause and back off 20%. And then just explore. Maybe if you feel a little sticking or skipping, pause there, and maybe a few micro movements, circles, half circles, maybe changing the direction before you keep going. From here, let's pause in what we're doing, and we'll move in the opposite direction for 3 rounds. So over to the right, and then forward. Isn't this interesting how simply changing direction can feel very different? What do you notice? Try to keep the movements as smooth as possible, lifting the head as you come forward. And chin to chest when you sink back. Is one way easier than the other? And do the sensations feel different? And we don't say good or bad, we just say, well, isn't that interesting? And coming back upright, relaxing hands to thighs, close the eyes. Here's our post-check. How does the body feel? What are the sensations in lower back, middle back, upper back, and the shoulders, perhaps into the neck? Breathe. And taking a few clearing breaths if that would serve. Our next flow is called Somatic Psoas release. This movement will work on the lower back, the hips, and the pelvis. It will alleviate pain in those areas, as well as in the groin. It also improves posture, and I have good news for you. we're going to lay down on our backs for this. So if you're sitting on anything, we'll take that out from underneath us. Perhaps just move those blankets off to the side. Scoot forward on your mat so you have enough space behind, and then we can roll right down as if we were in a shavasana or final relaxation. Let the legs roll away, the arms roll away from the body. And here in our pre-check, just notice the rate of your breathing. Notice quality of the thoughts. We'll scan the body. Find any of those places we're holding tension. And again, we don't have to change that. We're just gathering evidence. Notice the feet. Does one foot roll out towards the side more than the other? Something else you might check is the space between the lower back and the floor. And just get an idea of how much space you have right there. And then from here, we'll work on the right psoas first. Bend the right knee. You can hug it into the chest by either wrapping hands around the back of the thigh or in front of the shin bone. Notice here, you're pulling the knee and not cranking it as far as you can, but just the natural range of motion, stopping when the range of motion stops on its own. Notice how much space there is between the knee and your torso. And now let's flex this left foot. The toes are pointing up towards the ceiling, and engage the abdominals. We'll lift that leg several inches from the ground, and there's a sensation of pulling the legs, the muscles in towards midline of the body. Hold this for just one more second, and then relax. Notice if this right knee happened to pull in just a few inches or even centimeters closer to the torso. Next, this left foot will change its vector or direction. So instead of flexing the toes up to the ceiling, open the toes so they're pointing out towards the side. And then we'll lift that leg, pull, hug the muscles in towards midline of the body. And then we'll relax that down. Notice, did that right knee move at all? Maybe, maybe not. It's just information. And now the final direction. We'll point those left toes in towards the middle of your mat. As you're ready, lift the leg several inches, hug the muscles in. We're moving everything towards the midline of the body. And then relax. Now release the feet. You don't have to flex them. Look at that right knee. Has it come any closer to the body? The brain learns through contrast, so you can visually see if this movement has affected your body at all. Let's relax that right leg, and we'll come into this post-check. How does the body feel? Does one side feel a little different than the other? Deep cleansing breath here. And we'll shift to the other side. So right leg stays on the mat. We'll hug this left knee in, remembering only to come to the extent of your natural range of motion. Notice how that feels. Look at that left knee. See how much space there is between knee and the torso. We'll flex the feet here. The right toes pointed up to the ceiling. Engage the belly. We'll lift that right leg several inches and then hug the muscles in towards midline. And then release. Notice, did that left knee come any closer? And then we'll point that right foot out towards the outer edge of the mat. And then lift that leg, hug it in. We use the 3-second rule in gentle somatic yoga, holding each pose or each movement just for about 3 seconds. Release that down. And we do that because these are mindful movements. We are not trying to stretch. We're trying to move with awareness. This type of movement re-educates the neuromuscular system, trying to erase that sensory motor amnesia. Last one, we'll point that toe, the right toes, in towards midline of the mat. Engage belly, inhale, lift, hug the muscles in towards the midline, and then release. Now, take a peek at that left knee. Has it moved any closer towards your torso? And we'll stretch that left leg out, legs roll away, arms roll away from the body. Post check. Nice deep breaths. Go within. How does the body feel? What do you notice? Perhaps check the space between lower back and mat. A cleansing breath or two here may serve well. Inhaling, filling all the way up. Open mouth, let it all go. Once more if you'd like. For our last movement today, we'll come to a flow called around the clock. This flow will target the lower back, the abdomen, the hips, and the pelvis. Well, let's start here just with our pre-check, which is the same as our last one. We're in a mini shavasana, arms and legs rolled away, and our pre-check will be the same, just checking that space between lower back and the mat. Take a few breaths, scan the body, notice in this moment where you feel tension. And now from here, we'll bend the knees, bringing soles of the feet to the mat. And keep the feet at least hips distance apart. You might walk the heels in just a little bit towards the pelvis. Now, for this movement, we're going to imagine that the navel is 12 o'clock. The pelvis is 6 o'clock. The right hip will be 9 o'clock. And the left hip will be 3 o'clock. So we have like a clock face on our abdomen and hip area. To start, just let those arms come beside you. We'll think about bringing 6 o'clock, or the pelvis, closer to the ground, which means we're arching the spine, tilting the pelvis down. Remembering we're only holding for about 3 seconds and then we back off. And then let's try this opposite. So we want to bring 12 o'clock, or the navel center, closer to the floor. So we engage the abdominals, we tilt the pelvis in the opposite direction, and imagine pressing navel to floor, and then relax. And let's do this a few more times. Engage, 6 o'clock, pelvis down. Disengage, pause. And now opposite, 12 o'clock, or navel area pushes down as we lift the pelvis. And then relax one more time. Work at your pace here. Deep breaths even through the movements. Okay, once you finish that round, come back to center, pause here. Just notice how that feels. And we're going to move from side to side. So we'll be using 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock for our hips. First, let's bring 9 o'clock down. That's the right hip. Comes towards the ground as we lift the left hip up. Disengage, pause. And then other direction. 3 o'clock pushes down as we lift up. And then release. One more time each side there. 9 o'clock pushes down, 3 o'clock up. Relax. And then opposite. Left hip goes down, right hip comes up. And relax. Pause right there. Feel the body. Feel abdomen, hips, lower back. From here, we'll work in a circular motion. So We'll use these 4 areas, but try to move from one to another. Let's start by pressing the pelvis down, and we'll move towards 9 o'clock and then noon. So as you're ready, push 6 o'clock, or that's the pelvis, down. We're arching the back, and then in as fluid motion as possible, lowering right hip. And then 12 o'clock, or the navel area, pushes down. And then over to left hip pushing down, right hip up. And we'll find this one more time. So move at your own pace here. Notice any tingling, skipping, pain. And when you find that, remember we back off 20%. And then we find some micro movements. So any place you notice some skipping, you pause and just investigate like the archaeologist you are. Back and forth, circles, change the vector or the direction, and then you can come back to the flow and keep going. Now take your time. Once you finish that next round, pause, and we'll work in the opposite direction. So you'll move from right hip to the pelvis, then over to the left and up. And just a couple times in this direction, gathering information, moving as slowly, mindfully as you can. Notice the sensations. One more circle on this side in this direction. Take your time, but once you finish that round, we'll pause, extend the legs, and we post-check. Notice how you feel. Check that space between lower back and the mat. Deep breaths here. And from here, I'll ask you to stay in this Shavasana position. I'm going to sit up, and just so you can hear me clearly, as we've come to the end of this gentle somatic movements class, and we will have just a minute or two of Shavasana, or final relaxation. So keeping eyes closed, and the body's completely relaxed. We no longer control the breath, just let it rise naturally. And even feel the quality of the thoughts. Perhaps they're gentler, moving slower. You don't have that tendency to grasp as much as you did at the start of class. Sukhasana, cross-legged pose. Like an archaeologist, I believe that somewhere in this dark old cave, I'll find a worthy treasure. And I do. Lifting my sternum, stretching out sacrum, lumbar, psoas, iliacus, dusting off these mythical shards of me, names like an ancient language, hieroglyphic prayer I'm learning by heart. Pulling them out, I find another path to a hidden chamber, and another, and another. When the rock chips and clears, all these riches are visible, and I'm just sitting, digging deeper, blowing off the dust. Please stay here in this shape for as long as you'd like, until your body tells you it's ready to move upright. And as you do, please move slowly. As we all move through our day with mindful awareness that we've cultivated here in our practice.